the idea behind the HMTF program originated from a consultation with the UK research community. So the UK Natural Environment Research Council likes to fund what they call directed programs, which are initiatives or research questions that have been identified as having societal relevance or have been identified as major issues by the major unknowns by the scientific community. So what we're trying to do through the HMTF program is come up with a more complete, I suppose, or somewhat more sophisticated picture of how diversity maps on to function. In terms of the different consortia that have been funded under HMTF, there are actually 3 different projects. There's a project that's working in Brazil that's trying to look at differences between Atlantic forest and Amazonian systems, and they're the 2 projects BALI and Lombok funded to work in Sabah. A large component of our work is trying to scale up, so trying to understand if we can use the data collected at smaller levels, like a plot level, if we can use that to extrapolate to the landscape. We actually commissioned an aircraft that was the UK experimental aircraft to come out and fly over our sites, and it was using 2 types of sensors, what's called a LiDAR sensor, which gives you information about the height and volume of the trees, and actually you can do a 3D reconstruction of the forest using that, and we also had hyperspectral sensor, which measures the kind of energy light energy that's absorbed or reflected by leaves. And that information can give you an index of the nutrient content in the trees. And so we're using that data to try and understand if we could remotely sense not only biomass and come up with large-scale biomass estimates, but if combined with the measurements of plant traits that we did on the ground, we could then make extrapolations of nutrient content. So we may be able to use that remotely sensed data to not only generate maps of things, where things are, but maps of activities, like which are the forests that show the highest productivity, which are the forests that show the lowest productivity, which are the forests that are potentially emitting the most carbon to the atmosphere and potentially contributing to global warming, these kinds of things. And those are things, and those kinds of questions, especially about mapping processes, are things that really haven't been done before, or at least not to the degree of certainty that we have. So what we can do with our modeling and remote sensing data sets is we can then say, okay, overlaying on top of this map of biomass, we can then tell you with some degree of certainty what that contribution is of the forest to climate change, basically. For programs like REDD+ or RSPO to rehabilitate areas as offsets or for climate change mitigation, the kind of data that we'll have will help companies or smallholders or state forestry departments make decisions about management.